Imagine being locked in a palace so beautiful it looks like a dream. But behind the gold curtains and carved doors, you're forbidden the most basic human feeling: love. If you enjoy stories like this, true, dark, and forgotten, hit that subscribe button and tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? Now picture this. You're a young girl, taken from your home, renamed, dressed in silk, and trained for one purpose: to serve an emperor or a sultan. Not to love him, not to be loved by him, just to obey. In the imperial harems of history, China, the Ottoman Empire, Mughal India, concubines were groomed to be silent, beautiful, and loyal. But if one of them dared to fall in love with anyone other than the emperor, it wasn't called romance, it was called treason. Let's begin with Consort Zhao, a favored concubine of Emperor Wu of Han. She fell in love with a court musician, secretly meeting him in the quiet hours of the night. When the affair was discovered, Emperor Wu didn't just punish her, he humiliated her. The musician was executed, and Consort Zhao was forced to witness it. She was then publicly flogged and banished to a remote palace where no one was allowed to speak to her again. Her punishment wasn't death, it was erasure. Then there was Lady Yehanara Rong, a Manchu concubine during the Qing dynasty. She wasn't foolish, she was in love with another concubine. When her affection was discovered, her lover was strangled in the dark. Lady Rong was stripped of her title, her robes, even her hair. She lived the rest of her life as a palace servant, walking past the emperor she once served, invisible. But perhaps the most brutal case came from the Ottoman court. Concubine Gulnaz was rumored to be in love with a eunuch. When the rumors reached the ears of the Sultan, both were arrested. The eunuch was drowned in a sack, a punishment called sack execution, reserved for those who dishonored the palace. Gulnaz was forced to carry his burial clothes during his funeral, then locked in a windowless chamber for the rest of her life. Her crime? Loving someone who could never love her back, at least not publicly. These women weren't rebels, they were human. But in a system built on silence, love was rebellion. And rebellion demanded punishment. Every palace had its rules. But the harem? That was a world of whispers, glances, and silence. A single misplaced look could be your last. The Forbidden City in Ming Dynasty China, for example, housed thousands of women. Most never saw the emperor. Their days were filled with ritual, prayers, embroidery, etiquette lessons. But what wasn't written down were the rules everyone knew. Don't speak unless spoken to. Don't look at the guards. Don't ask questions. Concubine Shu, a lower-ranked beauty, was found exchanging letters with a young guard. The letters weren't even romantic, just stories, poems, dreams. But her behavior broke the code. She was brought before the Empress Dowager, stripped of rank, and assigned to clean chamber pots for the senior concubines. Eventually, she disappeared. No one ever saw her again. In the Mughal Empire, Mehrunisa, before becoming Empress Nur Jahan, was once a widow with a scandalous past. Rumors swirled that she had once fallen in love with another court official long before her imperial marriage. Even as empress, those whispers followed her. The only reason she survived was because she rose higher than anyone thought possible. But her early love was erased from records. For every Mehrunisa who survived, there were dozens who didn't. In the Ottoman palace, concubines were chosen for their beauty and loyalty. But concubine Esma, who fell in love with a palace physician, was sentenced to the Black Tower, a solitary cell in the basement where water dripped constantly and no sunlight ever reached. She was kept there for 7 years. When she was finally released, her hair had gone white. Her story became a warning to others. Don't fall in love, not even with a kind word. These women lived under a glass ceiling of obedience. They could be clever, beautiful, even powerful, but never disloyal. And loyalty meant one thing: no love unless it belonged to the master. Love was a political threat, and threats were silenced. Sometimes love wasn't just punished. It was used, twisted into a weapon. In the Russian court, Vasilisa Melentieva was reportedly a concubine, an unofficial wife of Ivan the Terrible. When he suspected her of being unfaithful, he staged a fake reconciliation, lured her into a private chamber, and beat her to death. The message was clear. No one, even someone the Tsar claimed to love, could betray him and live. Emperor Yongzheng of Qing China once had a concubine poisoned, not because she was disloyal, but because he believed she might fall in love with a visiting diplomat. Her death was recorded as sudden illness, but those inside the palace knew better. In these courts, affection wasn't affection. It was leverage. If a rival wanted to destroy a concubine, all she had to do was plant a rumor of disloyalty. A whispered name, a forged note, a look held a second too long, and the machinery of punishment began. Concubine Saraya, from the Persian court, was framed by another woman in the harem. The accusation? That she had spoken fondly of a young stable boy. She hadn't. But it didn't matter. The accusation alone was enough. She was dragged into the courtyard, her jewels stripped off, her robes torn. She was exiled to a desert shrine, where she lived alone until her death. Sometimes love didn't even have to be real to ruin you. In these systems, punishment wasn't always about justice. It was about control. The fear kept everyone in line, even the innocent. Not every concubine surrendered to silence. Some fought back, not with swords, but with wit, patience, and survival. Empress Wu Zetian began her life as a concubine of Emperor Taizong. She was supposed to retire to a nunnery after his death. Instead, she returned to the palace under the new emperor, his son, and slowly rose to power. Rumors say she eliminated rivals, used her intellect to outwit ministers, and eventually crowned herself the first and only female emperor of China. Her rise was scandalous, but it was also a victory over a system designed to keep her powerless. Then there's Hurrem Sultan, also known as Roxolana. She was a slave concubine in the Ottoman court, captured from Eastern Europe, but her charm and intelligence captured Sultan Suleiman's heart. Not only did he break tradition and marry her, he allowed her to write political letters, consult on decisions, and become one of the most powerful women in Ottoman history. Hurrem didn't just survive, she rewrote the rules. But not all rebels found glory. Concubine Tan from Vietnam's Nguyen dynasty wrote secret love poems to a poet in the palace. When the poems were discovered, she was sentenced to death by silken cord, a quiet, noble execution. Her lover vanished. Her poetry was burned. Only one line survived. Love is not treason, but they made it so. These women remind us that concubines weren't ornaments. They were thinkers, dreamers, rebels, trapped in a system that feared their hearts as much as their minds. And though most of their names were buried under centuries of silence, their stories still whisper through the cracks of time, because even in cages of gold, love refused to die quietly.